Daniel is of equal fitting as this head of gold. What you perceive as something that's happening linearly, it's all happening at the same time. It's all popping off at the same time. Now, why is any of this important? Well, as we know, names are titles, titles are names, but there's another aspect, and that is names being a mantle. Alright? Names being a mantle. Now, why is this important? Okay, so Daniel means meaning God is my judge. The hero of the biblical book of Daniel is a noble Jewish youth of Jerusalem taken into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, serving the king and his successors with loyalty and ability unto the time of the Persian conqueror Cyrus, all the while remaining true to the God of Israel. The consensus of most modern scholars is that Daniel is not a historical figure. He's not. But we got this before with Moses, right? Everybody on the planet believes in Moses, but yet Moses is regulated to legend, to myth. Same is true here for this Daniel, right? Now, and that book is a cryptic allusion to the reign of the 2nd century BCE Hellenistic king Antiochus IV Epiphanes, right? 6 cities claim the tomb of Daniel, the most famous being that in Susa, right? In southern Iran, a site known as Sushe Daniel. He is not a prophet in Judaism, but the rabbis reckon him to be the most distinguished member of the Babylonian diaspora, unsurpassed in piety and good deeds, firm in his adherence to the law, despite being surrounded by enemies who sought his ruin. And in the first few centuries CE, they wrote down many legends that had grown around his name. He is considered a prophet in Christianity, and although he is not mentioned in the Quran, Muslim sources describe him as a prophet. Right. Okay. Now, when we done our homework, though, we discovered that what? Daniel's name is also Kiliab. Kiliab is Daniel. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting, because we are talking about phantoms and duplications. Now, this Daniel, this Kiliab, he's estimated to be between 1031 BCE and 971 BCE, right? Hebron, Israel. Now check this out. His immediate family is the son of King David of Israel and Abigail. Now he is also the father of Daniel, right? Now, again, Daniel, right, son of Kiliab, but Kiliab is also Daniel. All right. Now here we have it again, brother of Kiliab, Daniel. So this Kiliab is also not only the son of King David and Abigail, but he's also listed here. Now, what you got going on here is a jumping in time, because you have this original Kiliab here that we're looking at, again, who's father of Daniel, but his name is Daniel. Now, when you put the story back together, right? What happened? Who are the children? You got Anion, right? You got Solomon. You got Daniel. Now Daniel, in as far as right to the throne and this, that, and the other, he had no compunction for the throne. He didn't want the throne. Right? He didn't want the throne. But when it comes down to the story of Kiliab, I think it was on the wiki we looked. When it comes down to the story of Kiliab, he looked so much like his father. You all see that all right? Kiliab, known as Daniel, second son, king of Israel. So when you talk about the Straits of Anion, and we talk about Tengu, the way it would seem to have gone, because again, he looks just like his father. It would seem that when Tengu was sacked, Nebuchadnezzar took Daniel, because Daniel looked so much like his father. And you kind of get this similar story played when we dig on the Prester John investigation with the Prester John the Elder and Prester John the Lesser. You know, you have a similar story between Merlin and King Arthur. You have a similar story between Joshua and Moses. But it would appear that, and we know, Anion fell first. And then it was Tengu that was sacked. And it would appear that that's when Daniel was captured, because he thought that he was David. You know, on a larger scale, a political chess piece, you know. Now, he was David's he was David's son with his third wife Abigail, widow of Nabal the Carmelite, and is mentioned in 1 Chronicles 3:1 and 2 Samuel 3:3. Unlike the other of David's three elder sons, Ammon, Absalom, and Adonijah, who were important characters in 2 Samuel, Kiliab is only named in the list of David's sons, and no further mention is made of him. Though being the second son, Kiliab was not a contender for the throne of Israel, even after the death of the firstborn Amnon, the thirdborn Absalom, and the fourthborn Adonijah. He may have died before his father. Late rabbinic traditions name him as one of the four ancient Israelites who died without sin. Okay, so understand what's going on. He was taken captured by Nebuchadnezzar, who appears to be also Genghis Khan. Or should I? Yeah, I think I'm saying it right. Genghis Khan. And so when he goes back, because we got it that Genghis Khan is supposed to be, the way the story goes, Genghis Khan's father was on the battlefield with Prester John. Something happened where that father dies. Temujin is raised by Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan wants to be part of the Prester. Prester John tells him no. And then you get the story of Genghis Khan rebelling against Prester John. Right? And that seems to be the timing where the sacking of Tengu takes place. And then the one that he quote unquote captures happens to be Daniel. And because of that, Daniel is no longer mentioned, right? Because Daniel has been taken. He's a part of the head of gold, remember? And look at the time date for this head of gold. It's a different time stamp. But it's the same story popping off. Talking about this Kiliab. Now what are we getting at here? Well, what are we getting at is there seems to be a mantle. Because just as we discovered and began to understand the difference that who we think is a lot of different people are the same people. Everything shrinks, everything concentrates. And there seems to be a mantle. It goes back, and it really goes back into an exalarch. When you're talking about an exalarch, we're no longer in a patriarchy. The patriarch, that method of things ended with Samuel. But again, understand that we're talking about phantoms, we're talking about duplications. And why are we being told these stories over and over again, but in a different way? And it has a lot to do with this. And again, if you notice the similarities between the air, the earth, and the water. Now, if we go back to, Exodus. Again, KTC keeping the code. Thou shalt not have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth, or that beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Hawa, thy power, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. You see, when we were digging on these spirit science, or we're digging on that monk, or whoever, we keep coming across the same situation, the same scenario. Because if you notice, the air, the earth, and the water, you can manipulate it. The cliche goes, in the world of the blind, the one-eyed Jack is king. This can have many connotations while remaining true. But why is that? Is it an echo? A warning of the past? Maybe that Mandela effect, right? For example, like in a game of spades, the last remaining jack of a suit is trump. It's the supreme over all others of that suit. And for a spade, doubly so, right? Now I bring this up to illustrate the illusion between a creator versus a supreme being. A god is a supreme being of its suit, not the strongest force or power in the game. And as the game is played, the one-eyed Jack doesn't mature its full power until endgame. Where have we heard this before? What are we talking about? We're talking about spin and Platonic solids on an almost unperceptible level. You see, if I spin the air, you spin the earth, I spin, I can make a pseudo water, you know what I'm saying, and vice versa. But you notice what you can't. You got the fire, right? And then you got the ether, the smokeless fire. The 12 sides, the 5 points on each side, right? Right. We're only talking about the 12 tribes. We're only talking about that smoke out of his nostrils, the fire out of his mouth. But just remember, this is you've been forbidden to study this, the dodecahedron, right? The isohedron is water, and now, just the reason why I bring this up is just because a false one can be created doesn't mean that the real one doesn't exist. You see, you can be given a lot of false air, a lot of hot air, right? You can be given a lot of false foundation. You can be given a lot of bitter water. But that doesn't mean that there isn't pure water. It doesn't mean that there's not fresh air. It doesn't mean that we don't have that pure land. So what we're talking about is now we're talking about duality. Now we're talking about what? A trinity, right? But this trinity here has a physical manifestation, a physical representation. This is where you get your Moses, your Miriam, and your Aaron. Now note, pay attention, that these are the same elements that are what? Go back. These are the same elements that are talked about. More importantly, notice how fire and ether are excluded from this list. What are we talking about? We're talking about KTC. We're talking about keeping the code. We're talking blue, purple, red. We're talking white linen, gold thread. It's all happening. It's all popping off. And I think we need to really, really pay that attention. Keep that in mind. Because who's Daniel? Daniel is a part of the head of gold. And believe it or not, this whole quote-unquote hidden Daniel story is very similar to the story of Esau. It's very, very similar. Similar to Moses' story as well. Joseph. It's all happening. And for the dismount, you said it before, man. The old Osby, when we first, it was around that Prester John 20th mark, man. When it was like, dang, the glossary, or the old Osby said that all this stuff is contemporary, and here it is surfing the wave, full circle 360. Yeah, that holds more weight than we think. Once again, keep the fires burning and the water's flowing. Keep your head up. All praise Hawa. Hallel Hawa. Hallel Hawa. I love y'all. Peace.